Hello there everyone and welcome to round 7 of the CRS British Touring Car Championship. This time round we're at the very tight and twisty Knockhill circuit, and your pole sitter for the first time in BTCC is the newcomer Blank in his Harlow Motorsport Renault 19. Jaden HW would be second while Kittu in his Cavalier would be third. I would bring up fourth in my Peugeot 405. Fapster in 5th in his Mondeo, while MBG would get 6th. Scalaris in the next of the BMWs would be 7th, while Brett would get P8. Rio Suck in his Renault 19 would be P9, and the Steady Drifter in the only any Carina would be P10. Method would be P11 in the second of the Renault dealer racing Renault 19s, while No Fridge would be 12th. Rosty would bring up 13th, and the remainder of the field would be Alex Plunkett in his Pinckney Motorsports E36 Beamer. So off of the line as usual, here come the rear wheel drives. A brilliant start from Scalaris from 7th place on the grid to get him all the way up to 3rd, while the rest of the field diced for positions. A little bit of contact between Brett and MBG in the back, and also one of the Renault cars running out wide at turn 1 as we all powered up through the tight hill S section, as we see another one of the Renault cars go wide as well. As the field has really been already split into two sections here, as everyone's just trying to get through this first lap cleanly, and luckily the majority do. Jaden in his stint out front was able to pull a little bit of a gap over Blank, as we see a Steady Drifter also a little bit further back come into the pit lane to serve his drive-through penalty from 2 rounds ago. On board with me here you can see how hard Scalaris was pushing to keep up with the front two guys. They're of course qualifying P7, not finding as much pace as the guys up front, but using the start of that Beamer to really get high up the grid. Now, I was being a little bit checked up by Scalaris in the braking zones, and this was allowing Kittu and Fapster to catch up, so I knew I had to get past Scalaris as quickly as possible. But Scalaris was able to get the undercut out the corner, but luckily my worries were soon terminated as Fapster hit into the side of Kittu unexpectedly. This time round though I tried to hold the inside, but Scalaris is still going to get a good drive. I'm even going to have to try and clutch kick the car to get it up into the higher RPMs, but still not able to get a manoeuvre done. It would only come when Scalaris would run wide out of the 3rd corner. There would be a tiny gap, just enough to squeeze a Peugeot 405 through, and I'll be able to gain another position there. This would be on board with Blank in his Harlow Motorsport Renault 19. He would be slowly closing in on Jaden, but it would take him a couple laps to get up with him. This would be on board with Kittu, who had worked his way back up to Scalaris and myself. He was having a look down the inside of turn 3 where I tried to pull off a manoeuvre which was successful. But as you can see, Kittu's getting a little bit checked up here by Scalaris, so he is going to be wanting to get past quickly, and that's what he tries to do down the inside. But into the side of Scalaris he goes, and here comes Fapster, who has absolutely nowhere to go in that situation. Scalaris just pulls out across in front of him, and unfortunately for Scalaris, he is going to be quite a way down the grid from that. This would be watching Rosty in the second of the Vauxhall Cavaliers, the Vauxhall Sport ones. He would be in a little bit of a battle with his mate No Fridge in that Listerine BMW. No Fridge would be able to go past around the outside of the slowly sweeping left-handed straight, I guess you could say, if that makes any sense whatsoever. But Rosty able to go down the inside of the hairpin, but No Fridge with his better drive out the corner would be able to get down onto the inside into turn 1. Maybe Rosty trying to have a look down the inside on corner exit, but nowhere to really go there, just a ginormous curve. This will be looking out the back of Rio Suck's car, I believe. He was having a fairly solid race this time round, but he had Scalaris chasing him down, and just a little bit too much pressure would force him into a mistake. Back on board with Blank then at the front of the field. He would be rather close to the back of Jaden this time round, and we would see just how much closer Blank could get after a slight mistake over the crest of the hill. Not this time round. This time round he makes a slight mistake over the crest of the hill. A little bit of commentary mistake on my behalf, but Jaden's still trying to hold it round the outside, almost successful, and he has got the inside to this straight, which is actually quite handy. The Beamer does have well, it seems to have a little bit more legs in a straight line, and he's going to try and line himself up for an undercut here. Here you can see the glimpse of my car closing in on them just because of the battle that they are having. Blank, though, still on the inside, coming down into the first corner. And they're going to try and go side by side into it, which doesn't particularly work out too well, as Jaden gets turned, well, I suppose he turns into Blank, just not expecting him to still be there. And then I have an absolutely massive moment, but luckily keep it going. But unfortunately get a 5-second time penalty where I'm not allowed to touch the throttle, and because of that, Kitu in his Cavalier is now right up with me. But Kitu's definitely got more pace than me at this point in the race, so I'm right on the ragged edge, as you can see here, sliding the car through the first corner, really just trying to use as much road as I possibly can to get away from Kitu, but it really isn't working at this point. Kitu's got so much more pace than me in his Cavalier at this point in the race, but I managed to gain a slight gap through the uphill section where I believe he messes up slightly on corner exit. However, he's really putting the pressure on me. So there are your leaders. That's Blank and Jaden go by, and then you'll see me fly by on 2 wheels, and even closely followed by Kitu at this point. Then we should see Fapster and his Mondeo come into 5th, and MBG pushing extremely hard, sliding through turn 1 in 6th. Just a couple laps later though, Kitty would gain right up to the back of me, so I decided to let him go, give him all the room that he needs down the inside, and my attempt here is just to try and follow him around for a couple laps and see if I can keep with him, which unfortunately was not the case. This one be on board with Assetto Drifter. He would accidentally run into the back of Rio, but a brilliant bit of sportsmanship from Assetto Drifter to wait up for him. However, Brett says thank you very much and inherits 2 positions for absolutely free there. However, Rio now on a charge, maybe to try and get away from Assetto Drifter, is now all over the rear of Bread as they come down into the 3rd corner. Still with him, Bread really pushing the limits of the car. You could see him get a slight slide around turn 4 there, I believe, but unfortunately just clips that inside curb too much on the hill chicane, and that sends him off into the gravel. This would be once again watching Rio suck and Assetto Drifter. Assetto Drifter would be having a look down the inside into the final hairpin. Rio gives him more than enough space to do so, as we see the group of cars behind now, which will be Rusty, Method and Bread, as Assetto Drifter and Rio will be side by side down the main straight now, with Rio slightly ahead, I believe, but backs out. A little bit of contact made, just not wanting to cause an accident, I presume, at this point in the race. This would be watching Bread. He would be behind Rusty. This would be quite a way down the grid, I believe, for probably about P10 at this point. However, Blank now would be right with them. Of course, Blank leading the race has got to come up and lap them. However, Rusty still decides to chuck it down the inside, runs into the side of Bread, and Blank says thank you very much to getting out of the way nice and easily for him to an extent. This would be looking at the back of one of the Renault cars, and we would unfortunately see Blank clip the inside tyre barrier at the hill chicane, and luckily Jaden would just be close enough for him to clinch the lead of the race. Kitu also managing to get through, and me not too far behind. So Jaden currently your race leader, Kitu in 2nd, Blank in 3rd, and me a little bit further back in 4th in my Peugeot 405. So it goes Beamer, Vauxhall, Renault and Peugeot, 4 different car manufacturers in the top 4, which is what we like to see here at CRS. So the leaders were now coming up to catch Rusty, who lets Jaden through on the inside nicely for the hairpin. However, coming down into turn 1, not sure if Rusty just outbrakes himself. He ends up running into the side of Jaden, then completely obstructs Kitty before getting out of the way of Blank. And then this would be on board with me. Rusty now having a look down the inside of Blank, really not sure if it was just outbraking or if it was maybe something intentional, because of course Kitty's teammate, Rossi's teammate, sorry, is running in 2nd place, which is Kitty. He also had a look at me down the inside at the last hairpin, which I was a little bit confused about. So this would be the overtake for the lead. Jaden would just run slightly too deep into turn 3, and Kitty would be able to get through. A little bit of contact through turn 4, but they still managed to get through cleanly. And coming up through the X section now, your leader is Kitty, then it's Jaden and the Beamer, and Blank in his Renault 19. Looking out the back of Kitty's car here, you can see Blank having a look down the inside. Jaden's going to try to run it around the outside. No space there for an undercut, but with his rear wheel drive, he's still got just as good of a run as Blank has. And then they make contact in a straight line. I'm just cheering them on at this point, hoping that they both take each other out of the race, which unfortunately doesn't happen for my case, but this would be on board with me. I would be closing up to Jaden quite a lot in the braking zones. I don't know whether it was just the way that Jaden had his car set up, because I've known that my car's been pretty good on the brakes throughout the whole season. However, at this track I was really gaining on the brakes over Jaden, and I was now right behind him as we really, I think it's about the last 3 or 4 laps the race at this point. So we're on about lap 22, I believe. I spot a gap down the inside, and with no time to spare, I chuck it down the inside and manage to get past Jaden cleanly. He runs a little bit wide on corner exit, which is helpful for me. However, Jaden's not going to be too happy with that, and he's going to be challenging back now into the hairpin. I'm not going to give him the space that he wants. Turn it in slightly late, and that allows him to stay on the outside and not able to get an undercut from his corner entry angle. However, it wouldn't be over yet, as Jaden would still be all over the back of me, really pushing. Even after a massive curb mount, he's still running with me, and very good bit of driving there from me and Jaden. This would be the final lap now. Blank would be right behind Kitu after a slight mistake, just trying to unlap him, trying to lap some back markers. And then he makes another mistake through the chicane, and coming out of the right-hander there side by side, Blank and Kitu now. Blank is your race leader with only 1 corner to go. You already know what's gonna happen. Kitu on board with him now, outbrakes himself slightly, just enough to get on the inside and use Blank as maybe a slight turning aid, and coming down then to the finish, probably one of the next closest finishes that we've ever had here at CRS. Blank just takes it, Kitu comes second, I managed to bring it home in third, which is very vital for me. Jaden brings it home in fourth, Fapster comes home in fifth in his Mondeo, and MBG in his Cavalier brings it home in sixth. Sculleris, after his spin out early on in the race, manages to bring his BMW home in P7. A very solid drive from him, very consistent for the latter half of the race, but it would not be over yet. This would be looking out the back of a Assetto Drifter car, I believe, looking at Rio Suck now. He would be trying to even defend into the last hairpin as they would come down the back straight. Rio would just get a slightly better drive, but he wouldn't be close enough as they both cross the finish line, with the second of the Renault dealer racing cars very closely behind. As we watch Jaden just go Jaden mode and to do something, we have a look at the championship standings then for the end of round 7. So I'm currently leading the championship by 2 points, but with 2 rounds to go, that can all change massively. Over Jaden with 81, Joseph on 42, Fapster 39, and so on. Vinnie Roberts in 9th, Toru in 10th, Method 11th. Blank in his debut is already up to 12th in the championship standings, which is very good for him, getting the race win and the fastest lap. As we have a look at the intense battle between Bowtie and Rusty, both on 3 points. They're both very intense rivals from what I've gathered. So thank you all very much for watching, everyone, and goodbye.